William Rayner was cursing under his breath as he wrestled with the broken strap on his son's golf bag, the Florida sun already beating down on his neck even though it wasn't past 9. "Daddy, it's okay," said little Henry, his 7-year-old voice soft and full of way more patience than William felt. "We can just carry the clubs." William gave his son a tired smile. "We paid for the junior clinic, bud. You're gonna play, even if I've got to carry that bag on my back like a backpack from the 90s. Henry grinned, missing one of his front teeth. It was the kind of grin that made everything else worth it, working 2 jobs, living in a crammed second-floor apartment, trying to be both parents since his ex-wife moved to Arizona and barely called. He hoisted the bag over his shoulder and turned toward the driving range. This golf course was way too nice for them, but Henry had won a free month of junior lessons in a school raffle, and William wasn't about to let his boy miss out just because they didn't fit in among the Teslas and Louis Vuitton visors. They were almost past the putting green when a white ball shot off in the wrong direction and smacked him right in the shin. "Ah." "What the— oh my God," a woman's voice gasped. "Are you okay?" William looked up and was instantly met with a pair of sunglasses, a high ponytail, and a woman jogging toward him in a crisp baby blue polo and a skirt that probably cost more than his grocery bill for the week. She pulled off the sunglasses, revealing a face so striking it made him forget the ache in his leg. "I wasn't aiming for you, I swear," she rushed out with a laugh that was too pretty to be taken seriously. "I was trying to chip onto the green, but clearly I'm better at hitting innocent bystanders." "I've had worse," William said, adjusting the bag on his back. "Once got hit with a juice box. That was more traumatic." She laughed again, this time for real.
"I'm Vanessa no ulen."
"I should probably buy you ice or a drink or something." "Ice would be great," William said, glancing toward Henry. "But only if they sell it with a side of patience and a new golf bag strap." Vanessa looked at the kid and smiled warmly. "You play?" Henry nodded. "I'm in the junior clinic this month." "Well then," she said, crouching to his level, "you're officially cooler than me. I'm still trying to learn how not to hit people." Henry giggled. William couldn't help but notice the way Vanessa's eyes softened as she looked at his son. Most people got awkward when they realized he was a single dad. She didn't. She looked comfortable. "All right, Henry," William said, nudging him forward. "Go get signed in. I'll catch up in a sec." Once Henry was out of earshot, Vanessa turned back to him. "Is he your only?" "Yeah," he said. "Just me and him." She tilted her head, studying him. "You don't look like the country club type. And you don't look like someone who can't swing a 9-iron. Touché." They stood there for a second, the quiet filled with the light thwack of golf balls being hit in the distance. William cleared his throat. "Thanks for checking in. I should go." "Wait," Vanessa said. "You free later? Maybe grab a drink?" "No golf balls involved." He blinked. "Are you asking me out?" She laughed.
"No."
"I'm asking you to let me make up for nearly breaking your leg." He hesitated. She was gorgeous, and clearly from a different world, but something about her didn't feel fake or uptight. It felt
easy.
"All right," he said. "I'll bite. You got a pen?" She reached into her golf bag and pulled out a Sharpie. "Give me your hand." William raised an eyebrow but held it out. She scrawled a number across his palm in neat, bold strokes. "I'll see you at 8, she said, turning back toward the putting green. "Don't be late." William stood there for a second, staring at his hand like it had just turned into a winning lotto ticket. His son's voice pulled him back.
"Dad.
Coach is waiting." Coming. That night, after dropping Henry off at his friend's house whose mom had graciously offered to babysit, William stood outside a rooftop bar downtown, staring at the sign like it was written in a different language. He'd worn the best button-up he owned and jeans that didn't have holes in them. His nerves were screaming, but when he spotted Vanessa waving from a table lit by soft golden string lights, something in him eased. "Hey, stranger," she said as he sat down. "You clean up nice." You look like a magazine cover, he blurted before he could stop himself. She laughed, sipping her wine. I'll take that. They talked. And talked. About everything. She asked about Henry. About his job at the auto shop and his weekend shifts as a delivery driver. He asked about her golf game, and, jokingly, her aim. She told him she worked in consulting, and he didn't press. By the time dessert came lava cake, which she insisted on ordering, they were both leaning in, laughing too loud, completely lost in each other. It was only when she offered to pay the bill and handed the waiter a black card that something clicked in his brain. Wait, he said, watching the waiter walk off. Was that? Vanessa shrugged, swirling her wine. I wasn't exactly lying. I do consulting. I just also own the firm. His eyebrows shot up. And you're a millionaire? She looked at him, not smug or defensive, just honest. I am. He leaned back in his chair, letting the shock settle. You okay? She asked gently. I'm just trying to figure out how someone like you ends up having drinks with someone like me. She leaned forward, resting her chin in her hand. That's easy. Because someone like you made me laugh, treated me like a person, and has a kid with the best smile I've ever seen. He stared at her. You're serious. Dead serious. He couldn't speak for a second. Then he reached across the table, lacing his fingers with hers. I should warn you, he said. I don't own anything worth more than my truck. And even that's debatable. Vanessa smiled, her eyes sparkling.
Good.
Then you'll never wonder if I like you for your money. He laughed, shaking his head. You're something else. And you're exactly what I didn't know I needed, she whispered. And just like that, something shifted between them, something real. Neither of them said the word for it. Not yet. But it was there. It had started with a golf ball to the shin. And it was already turning into something that felt a lot like falling. William stepped through the doors of his auto shop the next morning with a stiff neck and a buzzing head, the kind of leftover adrenaline that didn't quite wear off after a night like that. He moved toward the back where the oil-stained floor met the scent of metal and grease, and tried to focus on the car with the busted radiator waiting on lift number 3. But every time he reached for a wrench or leaned under the hood, her voice echoed in his ears. Not just the way she said his name, but the way she'd listened, like every word he said mattered, like she hadn't been checking her watch or mentally calculating numbers in her head. He'd expected the night to end with a polite thank you, maybe a hug if he was lucky. Instead, they'd stood outside under the string lights long after the check had been paid, neither of them wanting to leave first. She'd leaned in, pressed a soft kiss to his cheek, not his mouth, and whispered, I want to see you again. That kiss had stayed with him. Hey, man, called Luis, one of his coworkers, from across the garage. You're about to pour coolant into the oil tank. William blinked and stepped back, realizing he was holding the wrong container.
Right. Sorry.
Long night. Luis chuckled. If long night means you met someone, then congrats. But maybe don't destroy Mr. Bailey's Dodge in the process. William gave a sheepish nod and got back to work, grateful for the chance to bury his thoughts under a hood for a few hours. By the time he picked Henry up later that afternoon, the boy was bouncing with excitement. Coach, let me hit from the back tee today. He said I had good swing form. William grinned as he adjusted the seatbelt. That's awesome, bud. Maybe you'll be the next big golf star. Henry looked thoughtful. Vanessa said she started playing late, too. She said it's never too early to fall in love with something. William's heart skipped. She talked to you again?
Yeah.
At the snack bar. She gave me a granola bar and said I had a champion smile. He started the car, the steering wheel suddenly feeling warmer than it should.
She's
nice, huh? Really nice. And funny. You like her, don't you? William glanced at him. What makes you say that? You looked happy when you saw her yesterday. Like when we go to the beach and you get that first coffee. He chuckled and ruffled Henry's hair. Maybe I do. That night, As Henry slept soundly in the next room, William sat at the small kitchen table, rubbing his thumb over the edge of his beer bottle. He hadn't planned on calling her, but her number was still inked faintly into his palm, the remnants of yesterday's sharp lingering like a dare. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Hey," she answered, her voice light, as if she'd been expecting him. "Hey," he replied, surprised at how easy it felt. "You busy?" "Not really. Just trying to convince my dog that the couch isn't his personal throne." "You have a dog?" "A very spoiled Dalmatian named Kip. He's judgmental and dramatic. You'd love him." He laughed. "I already do." There was a pause, the kind that wasn't awkward, just filled with curiosity. "I was thinking," she said slowly, "if you're free tomorrow, there's a charity event at the marina. Nothing fancy, just food trucks, live music, and a small auction. You and Henry could come." He hesitated, always cautious when it came to Henry and new people. But there was something about the way she said it, casual, open, no pressure, that made it feel less like an invitation and more like a chance. "I think he'd love that," he said. "Good," she said, her voice quieter now. "So would I." The next afternoon, they arrived at the marina just before sunset. The golden light played off the water, and the air was thick with the scent of grilled food and salt. Henry darted ahead toward the music, and William followed, still adjusting to this side of town. The luxury yachts docked like floating mansions, the people in linen and silk, the subtle scent of expensive cologne on the breeze. Vanessa was waiting near a white tent, her hair down and wind-tousled, wearing jeans and a navy top that somehow made her look even more out of reach. But when she saw them, her face lit up, and something in William relaxed. "You made it," she said. "You weren't kidding about this being low-key," he said, eyeing the string quartet near the auction tables. She laughed. "Okay, maybe a little fancier than I let on. But the churros are worth it." Henry pulled at her hand. "Can we get some?" "Absolutely," she said, and let him lead her away. William watched them walk side by side, and the image hit him harder than he expected. They looked good together, natural, like they'd known each other longer than a few days. Later, as they stood near the docks watching the crowd bid on silent auction items, Vanessa leaned closer. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said, his eyes on Henry. "This is just a lot." She followed his gaze. "I know it's a different world, but I don't want that to make things harder." He turned to her. "I work weekends to afford his school supplies. You buy wine that costs more than my rent. I'm not pretending that doesn't matter." She didn't flinch. "It does matter, but not the way you think. It matters that you're real, that you care about your kid, that you showed up tonight, even though this probably feels like walking into a dream you don't belong in." He swallowed. "That's exactly how it feels. I can't change where I come from," she said, "but I can choose who I let in. And I want you here." A silence settled between them, heavier this time. "What if I screw this up?" he asked. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time since his life had been turned upside down years ago, he felt the pull of something not just hopeful, but possible. Nearby, Henry returned with 2 churros and a grin. "I got one for you, Dad." William took it, voice a little unsteady. "Thanks, buddy." Vanessa reached for hers, brushing her fingers against his.
Told you.
"Worth it." He bit into the sugar-dusted pastry and grinned. "You might be right." She bumped his shoulder gently. "I usually am." And just like that, the distance between their worlds didn't feel quite so wide. The following week passed in a blur of early mornings, late-night oil changes, and a growing ache William didn't know what to do with. He'd been careful, almost too careful. He hadn't seen Vanessa since the marina. She hadn't pushed. And maybe that's what made it harder. She was letting him come to her. And he didn't know if he was ready. But on Thursday afternoon, a delivery van pulled up outside the auto shop. William glanced up from under the hood of a battered Honda, wiping his hands on a rag. You William Rayner? The driver called. Yeah, he answered warily. Got something for you. Signature required. William frowned, stepping forward. The man handed him a sleek black envelope, no logos, no return address. He signed, and the van rolled off. Inside was a single card, thick and textured. It read, Henry mentioned he liked boats. There's a small regatta this Saturday. I reserved a spot for you both if you're interested. No pressure, just wind, waves, and snacks. V. He stared at the card for a long moment. Then he folded it carefully and slipped it into his pocket. Saturday came with a breeze off the water and skies that couldn't decide whether to be silver or blue. William held Henry's hand as they walked along the marina, past rows of sailboats and polished wooden docks. There it is, Daddy. Henry pointed to a sleek sailboat moored near the end of the pier. A woman in a windbreaker was waving Vanessa. She'd pulled her hair into a braid this time, and she wore deck shoes that had probably never seen a day of actual labor, but the look on her face when she saw them wasn't polished or posed. It was genuine. You came, she said as they stepped aboard. Well, someone sent us a mysterious invitation, William said, helping Henry onto the boat. And I figured snacks and wind sounded better than brake fluid and busted transmissions. Henry grinned and darted toward the bow, where a cooler sat waiting. Vanessa turned to William. This isn't a bribe, I promise. I didn't think it was, he said. But I'm starting to think you have a thing for surprises. I do, she admitted. But only when they're the good kind. The boat eased away from the dock, guided by the captain she'd hired. As they glided through the harbor, Vanessa leaned against the railing beside William, arms crossed against the wind. You're quiet, she said. I'm thinking. Dangerous habit. He glanced at her. You ever wonder if something's too good to be real? She didn't answer right away. All the time. Especially when it is real. He exhaled slowly, watching Henry laugh near the bow, hair whipped by the wind, face lit up in a way William hadn't seen in a long time. I'm trying to do right by him, he said. Every day. And I guess I'm scared of letting him get used to something that could disappear. Vanessa didn't flinch. Then don't disappear. He looked at her, surprised by the quiet certainty in her voice. You think it's that simple?
No, she said.
I think it's that hard. But worth it. He considered that. The sails filled with air above them, the boat tilting gently as they cut through the water. Henry turned and waved, and William waved back. I never expected this, he admitted. You mean me?
No.
I mean you, this boat, the fact that my kid just asked if he can live on the ocean now. She laughed. He's got good taste. They passed a cluster of kayakers, and the captain adjusted their course. Vanessa moved closer, resting her hands on the metal railing. I told my sister about you, she said suddenly. William blinked. You have a sister? 2, actually. But one of them's the nosy one. She wanted to know why I've been smiling at my phone like a teenager. He raised an eyebrow. I didn't realize I'd texted that many dad jokes. You didn't. That's what made it suspicious. He chuckled, then sobered. And what did you tell her? That I met someone who doesn't care who I am on paper. Someone whose kid made me laugh harder than anyone's ever managed to. He looked out at the horizon, the sunlight catching the waves. I keep thinking this isn't real, he said. That I'm gonna wake up and be back to just us, me and Henry. And if it is real, she asked, what then? He turned to her. Then I hold on to it with both hands. Vanessa didn't speak. Instead, she reached into a small bag behind her and pulled out a life vest child-sized, bright blue, brand new. I got this just in case, she said. Didn't want to assume. But I hoped. William took it, his fingers brushing hers. You think of everything. Only the things that matter. They stood there, the silence full of decisions neither of them had made yet, but both were leaning toward. When they docked that evening, The sun had dipped low, and the marina lights blinked on one by one. Henry was asleep in the back seat before they even left the parking lot, his head tilted against the window. William carried him up the stairs to their apartment, tucked him in, and came back outside to find Vanessa still waiting beside her car. "I should let you get home," he said. She didn't move. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "If this were different, if I weren't who I am, would you have said yes to me earlier?" He didn't hesitate. "I said yes because it was you. Not because of anything you own." She nodded slowly.
"Good."
"Because I've had people chase my last name. I don't need that." "You've got my full attention," he said. "Not your name. Just you." She stepped closer. "And if I said I wanted more than just attention?" He leaned in, closing the space between them. "Then I'd say I've been waiting for you to say that." She kissed him soft. Sure, no hesitation. It wasn't rushed or heated. It was steady, certain, like pressing a lock into the right key. When they finally pulled apart, she smiled. "See you tomorrow?" He nodded. "Count on it." And for the first time in years, William didn't feel like he was standing at the edge of two different worlds. He felt like he was finally building one. William adjusted the button at the neck of his shirt for the third time, staring at his reflection in the mirror above the bathroom sink. The sleeves were one roll too high, and he'd missed a spot shaving. He fixed it with a quick splash of warm water, then checked on Henry, who was seated cross-legged on the couch, swinging his socked feet and holding a small Lego airplane. "You sure you're okay with Mrs. Talbot?" William asked, grabbing his keys. "She lets me eat popcorn on the couch," Henry replied without looking up. "I'm good." William gave a short laugh, heart thudding louder than he wanted to admit. "All right. I'll be back in a couple hours. Have fun with Vanessa." He froze in the doorway, then turned slowly. "What did I say about reading minds?"
Henry grinned.
"You didn't have to say anything. You're wearing your nice shoes." William shook his head, reached over to ruffle his hair, and headed out. The invitation had come the day before, handwritten on thick paper, tied with a navy ribbon. She hadn't said what it was for, only to meet her at a private gallery downtown. He'd asked twice if it was fancy. She'd said, not too much. Which, in Vanessa's world, could mean anything from a rooftop jazz concert to a dinner inside a glass conservatory. When he arrived, the gallery's front doors were open, soft lighting spilling onto the sidewalk. Inside, the air was cool, scented faintly with eucalyptus, and music drifted through unseen speakers, slow piano, low and rich. He spotted her near the back wall, standing beside a tall canvas. Her dress was dark red, simple, elegant, and she wore her hair swept to one side. She turned the moment he stepped in, and her face lit up not with surprise, but with a kind of quiet certainty. "You came," she said. "You invited me." She walked toward him, her heels soundless on the polished floor. "I wanted you to see something." He glanced around at the art pieces that ranged from stark, minimalist ink lines to sprawling, colorful abstracts. "I didn't peg you for the gallery type," he said. "I'm not," she replied. "But I'm the board sponsor for this one. It's a non-profit that gives young artist studio space and funding." William paused. "You run that?" "I help fund it," she corrected. "They run it." She led him to one of the smaller rooms branching off from the main gallery. Inside, 3 canvases hung side by side. The one in the center was a swirl of ocean hues, blues and greens colliding, with a small figure in the corner, painted in sharp contrast. A child, half turned toward the waves, a kite in his hand. He took a step closer. The resemblance was unmistakable. "That's Henry," he said. Vanessa nodded. "One of the artists came to the regatta last weekend. He said he was captivated by him. Said there was something fearless about the way he looked at the sky." William stared at it, throat tightening. "You had this done?" "No," she said softly. I just bought it before anyone else could. He turned to her slowly. Why would you do that? Because I wanted you to see how others see him. And maybe how others see you, too. His voice dropped. You're doing it again. What? Making this harder to walk away from. She didn't smile. Then don't walk. The silence between them stretched, not uncomfortable, but heavy with decision. I've never felt like I belonged in places like this, he said. You belong wherever your son laughs loudest, she replied. Where you're seen and heard and wanted. He looked at her, really looked at the steadiness in her eyes, the way she wasn't waiting for him to be someone else, just waiting for him to see what she already did. I've been scared to want this, he admitted. You, this world. All of it. She stepped closer. Then let's build a new one. One that fits both of us. He reached for her hand. You sure? Completely. The next morning, William stood in the kitchen flipping pancakes while Henry sat at the table, reading aloud from a book about space shuttles. There was a knock at the door. Expecting someone? Henry called. Nope. When William opened it, Vanessa stood on the landing, holding a paper bag and a cup tray with 2 coffees. I brought fuel, she said. And muffins that may or may not be from a bakery that makes you sign a waiting list. He stepped aside. Then you're definitely staying. She slid past him, setting the bag on the counter. I was thinking, she said casually, about next weekend. There's an open-air music festival. Family-friendly. You and Henry should come. Trying to make this a tradition? He asked. Trying to make this a life, she said. Henry appeared in the doorway, eyeing the bag. Are those chocolate chip? Vanessa crouched down, unwrapping one. Only the best. You hungry? He nodded, then looked at William. Can she stay for pancakes? William looked from his son to the woman who'd walked into their lives without warning and managed to leave nothing untouched. Yeah, he said. She can stay for everything. Over the next few weeks, the lines that separated their lives blurred quietly. Vanessa showed up for Henry's junior golf clinic final, cheering louder than anyone else. William found himself on her balcony one Friday night, watching the city lights with her head on his shoulder. There were no declarations, no sudden leaps. Just days stitched together with intention. One evening, she brought over a small envelope and handed it to Henry. What's this? He asked, tearing it open. Inside was a card with a drawing of a clubhouse and 2 cartoon golf clubs crossing like swords. It's an invitation, she said, to be part of my private club. Henry tilted his head. What kind of club? The kind where you get to pick the games on movie night, and you always get the last muffin. He looked at her, then at William. Can Dad be in it too? Vanessa's eyes didn't leave William's. He's already the co-president. William reached for her hand without a word, and this time, there was no hesitation. Months later, they stood in a small garden behind a white stucco house just outside the city. A quiet ceremony, a few friends, Henry in a tiny suit beaming like his smile alone could power the sun. Vanessa wore a pale gold dress, her hair loose, her eyes locked on William like they'd never looked anywhere else. When they exchanged vows, they didn't promise perfection. They promised honesty, patience, and to never let fear write the ending. As they walked back down the garden path, hand in hand, Henry ran ahead, his laughter echoing between the trees. Vanessa leaned into William. Looks like we're officially a trio. He pulled her closer. Best team I've ever been part of. And just like that, what started with a golf ball and a stranger became a home. Not because of wealth or luck, but because 2 people decided to choose each other every day. And a boy who needed more than just love. He needed a life full of it. They gave it to each other.
Completely.
Forever. Vanessa stood barefoot in the sun-drenched kitchen, flipping through a battered cookbook with flowers smudged across the back of her hand. The scent of cinnamon and vanilla clung to the air, drifting through the open windows. Outside, Birds chirped over the gentle hum of lawn sprinklers, and the breeze carried the sound of Henry's laughter from the backyard. William leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching her. "You're doing it again." She didn't look up. "Doing what?" "Pretending you're not trying to outbake the entire neighborhood." She turned a page and gave a subtle shrug. The bake sale flyer said, "Friendly competition." "I'm just making sure we're not embarrassed." He pushed off the wall and came up behind her, resting his hands lightly on her hips. "You know you could have just bought cookies like everyone else." "Where's the fun in that?" she said, finally glancing over her shoulder. "Besides, Henry said he wanted ours to be the best. He also said he wanted a pet goat last week. I think we need to start setting some boundaries." She laughed, setting the cookbook down and dusting her hands off on her apron. "Well, it's too late now. I've already made 3 dozen. You're unbelievable. You married me." His eyes softened. "Best decision I've ever made." Before she could reply, the back door swung open and Henry burst in, grass stains on his knees and a plastic trophy in his hands. "I won the putting challenge." Vanessa crouched to his level. "You did? That's amazing." He beamed. "Coach said I had the best focus." William reached for the small trophy and turned it over in his hand. "Where are we putting this one? Next to the rock you painted or the paper plate medal from field day?" Henry thought for a moment. "On the fireplace. It's gold." Vanessa ruffled his hair. "Then gold it is." After dinner that night, the 3 of them sat on the porch, the sky streaked with pink and orange. Henry leaned against William's side, drowsy and content, while Vanessa sat curled in the chair beside them, her legs tucked beneath her. "You ever think about what's next?" she asked softly, eyes on the horizon. William glanced down at Henry, who was slowly drifting off. "I used to live day to day. Now I catch myself thinking months ahead. It's weird." "Not weird," she said. "Just different." He looked up at her. "What about you?" She hesitated. "I've been thinking about stepping back from the business. Not all the way, just enough to breathe more." "Really?" His voice was quiet. "You love your work." "I do," she said. "But I love this more. Us. The quiet mornings, the way Henry tells me about his dreams like they're real. I don't want to miss any of it." He reached for her hand. "You won't." A week later, Vanessa stood at the edge of the school auditorium stage, clapping with the rest of the crowd as Henry took his final bow in the spring play, a chaotic, endearing version of Peter Pan. He'd been a lost boy with one line and a crooked feather in his cap, but he delivered it with such confidence that even the principal gave him a thumbs up. Backstage, William met them with a juice box in one hand and a bouquet of mismatched flowers in the other. For the star. Henry took them like they were made of diamonds. "Can we get ice cream?" Vanessa laughed. "We already promised, didn't we?" They walked to the car together, Henry skipping ahead, still in costume. Later that night, as he slept curled under his pirate blanket, Vanessa and William stood in the doorway, watching him. "He's growing fast," she whispered. William nodded. "Too fast." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I want to give him roots. A place that's always his." He looked at her, then pulled her gently down the hall. "Come with me." He led her into the spare room, the one they'd been using as a catch-all for boxes and half-finished projects. But now, the boxes were gone. In their place stood a small desk, a bookshelf half-filled, and a globe lamp beside a twin bed with a navy quilt. Vanessa's breath caught. I thought it was time he had a room that felt like his own. Not just a place he sleeps in when he's here. A place that's his. Full-time." She turned to him, eyes glassy. I want this to be permanent. Not weekends, not visits. I want us to live here. Together. All the time." She stepped forward, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." They stood there, holding each other in the quiet of the room that now held a future. Months passed, full of small, beautiful days. Mornings with pancakes and syrup-sticky fingers. Weekend trips to the lake. Vanessa teaching Henry how to tie a tie for his school picture. William showing him how to change a tire. One rainy afternoon, Vanessa came home with an envelope tucked in her purse. She handed it to William without a word. Inside was a letter official, stamped, final. William looked up. "It's done?" She nodded. The paperwork went through. Henry's officially mine, too. He stared at her, blinking back emotion. He's going to be so happy. I already told him. From the hallway, a voice called, "Did Dad cry?" William groaned. "Go to your homework." Vanessa laughed, wiping a tear from her cheek. He said he wants to hyphenate his last name. "Well," William said, pulling her into a hug, "he'll be the only kid in his class with one that cool." That night, as the rain tapped gently against the windows, Vanessa and William lay side by side, the soft hum of the old record player playing in the background. "You ever think about how it started?" she asked. "A golf ball and a broken strap," he murmured. "What are the odds?" She touched his cheek, her thumb brushing the corner of his mouth. "I don't care about odds. I care that we're here now." He kissed her, slow and sure. "Here, always." Outside, the rain slowed to a whisper. Inside, their world was full of love, of laughter, of a family made not by chance, but by choice. And that choice was forever.